Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the September 9th full board meeting. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise and recite the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, item number 3, invocation by Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we could bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer together as a group, and mature the bonds of the community. Fill us with your grace, Lord, as we make decisions that will affect the residents of Macomb County. And continue to remind us that all that we do here today, all that we accomplish is for the pursuit of truth, of the greater glory of you, and for the service of our community. We ask these things in your name, Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner. Adoption of the agenda, item number 4. Can I get a motion to adopt today's agenda?
Drolet moves. Support.
All right, I think that was Commissioner Romano, so I have Drolet and Romano. Please vote.
That motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Item number 5, approval of minutes dated August 27th, 2020. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Support by Leonetti.
All right, I have a motion and support. Please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Item number 6, public participation. Any members of the public wishing to speak on any items on the agenda today, you'll have 5 minutes. Please push *6 to get off mute. And give me your name and
Hello.
Oh, hello. Who is this?
It's Mike Zubis. Are we still voting on agenda item 13 in the packet?
Mike, we are on public participation item number 6, but we will be going through everything on the agenda.
Okay, so that's. I just want to make sure that I could still talk about the Patriot Week thing.
It's on the agenda. You are free to speak of it or about.
Okay, great.
So, Michael Zubis, and your address again, please, quickly, Michael.
Yes, of course. My address is 322 North Avenue, and that's apartment 1. Located in Mount Clemens, Michigan, and the zip code is 48043. All right, I'm going to begin now. Thank you to the Commission for hopefully making the Patriot Week, and more importantly, Constitution Day, a thing in Macomb County. It's a great time to remind people in Macomb of how wonderful our founding document is. And alas, I fear something will not be discussed, the mistakes it made. Like thinking that banning liquor and arresting everybody who drinks would stop drinking. It didn't. Or putting term limits on the president but not Congress was a good idea, which would be a great reform. But with all the bad things, there are good things too, like the 13th and 14th Amendments, which may have its issues as well, as we previously talked about. But overall, it's a great way to, in quotations, break the chains of the classic sense of slavery. But I must say, I noticed something about the writer of both amendments, Jacob M. Howard, senator from Michigan, the man who literally invented the Republican Party after realizing the Whigs would not lead us to abolition, thus proving that a strong third-party movement can change politics forever. But I go back to Senator Howard. He commented about our indigenous brothers and sisters when he said, "I am not yet prepared to pass a sweeping act of naturalization by which all the Indian savages, wild or tame, belong to a tribal relation, are to become my fellow citizens to go to the polls and vote with me." Now, 2 words struck a chord with me. Why? It reminded me of another document, and that document said this: "He has excited domestic insurrections among us and has endeavored to bring upon the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages who known rule of warfare is undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. Where did that come from? The Declaration of Independence, which goes back to my overall theme recently. Our founding fathers wrote some great documents, but they were not perfect at that. From Article 1, Section 9, Clause 1 banning free Congress from abolition until 1808, or the Fugitive Slaves Clause, and of course the Three-Fifths Compromise. I hope we talk about the shortcomings of the Constitution as well as its amazing feats of freedom and true justice for every citizen, rich and poor. Until we get a massive editing or a new one, if that's not possible, I fear we may be stuck living in the past instead of embracing our amazing future. So let's talk about the good and the bad of the 17th, please. Thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you, Michael. Any other members of the public wishing to speak? You have 5 minutes. Please push *6. Any other members of the public wishing to speak? All right, hearing no other members of the public wishing to speak, you will have another chance on item number 15. We're going to close public participation. Move on to item 7, correspondence from the Office of County Executive. I don't have anything specific here, although they will be on today talking about some of the CARES Act money. So we'll close item 7 and go to item number 8, Health and Human Services Committee recommendations. Everybody, just want to point out that all of these committee recommendations were waived to this board, this full board, and this full board was created for all of the COVID and road items that are on here. So all of these, none of these have been discussed before. So we'll go with item 8A. Can I get a motion to adopt maybe, if you want to do 8A, B, and C, that will be fine. They're all Macomb Community Action. I'm sure the same person will speaking to all of those. So can I get a motion?
I'll make the motion on A, B, and C. A through C. This is Dujay.
All right, I have Commissioner Dujay, and I think I had Commissioner Hall starting off, so I'll consider you the support for this.
Thank you.
I am hoping that Ernest is on the line. Ernest, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here, Bob. Can you hear me?
Great, there you are. Yes, the floor is yours.
Yeah, these are some great items here to make sure that we can continue to respond to those second-order effects of COVID. Number 8A is directly related to the WCARES, which is, the same acronym that we've been using, the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Policy Act. And they just add W for water on the front of there. This is an expedient proposal to make sure that struggling families can get water bill arrearages paid off. The requirements for this, as you see in your attachments, are that a recipient is receiving or eligible to receive the SNAP benefits for food in Michigan. And the reason that was done is it's a quick way to make sure if you already have proved eligibility through some other state office, that we can quickly help you with that urgent financial assistance related to water bill arrearages. As you may have noticed, there are many water funding sources going on. Macomb County participates in the Great Lakes Water Authority RAP program, and the state is making other resources available. Basically, they want to make sure that we have the funds at our disposal to help residents when they're in need. And water bill arrearages is a quick and easy way. It's easily demonstratable. We can make payments, to the water bill municipality, and we're having municipalities sign on as we speak to participate in this. So we think it's a great program, and it will really cut out a lot of bureaucracy and paperwork by making it contingent upon eligibilities that were already proved and attested to through other state of Michigan programs. Just going through, I'm happy to take questions on all of these, but B.
I don't have any questions on A so far, so go ahead.
B is related to our Q-Care boxes. That's COVID quarantine boxes. Generally, these can be a mix of either food and or household goods. We're making these available to make sure that people who have to stay home to stay safe are able to do so safely. This is implemented across the state of Michigan in a variety of ways. We have prepackaged boxes of household goods, laundry detergent, soap, detergent, toothpaste, the products that you might go out to the store to buy that can have you stay in your home rather than going out to the store and be another protective factor. So we're working on the eligibilities for those and how we'll distribute them. but it's another great source to help make sure that Macomb County is providing resources and support to vulnerable residents so that they can stay home and stay safe. That third one is another water one. However, this is one that comes through the Bureau of Community Action and Economic Opportunity, the BCAEO, under MDHHS. And this one also provides allowances for repairs, both internal and external. And this is one I'm really excited about, because oftentimes when we go into a home that's dilapidated, the plumbing isn't the issue as much as the interior or exterior integrity of the household. So for instance, if we went in to a mobile home unit and we found out that they needed a new plumbing, there might often be external and interior repairs that prevent us from doing that plumbing repair, because we know we can't in good faith do the plumbing repair if we don't fix all of the surrounding issues. The good news about this funding is it also allows for hot water. Hot water was deemed essential for sanitation, hand washing for the house, so we can cover both internal and exterior repairs related to any plumbing or water issue. This really provides us a lot more flexibility than most water funding does, and we think we'll be able to put those funds to real good use real quickly, especially as the cold weather sets in here.
Great. I was just reading through this. I don't see any questions on this. Commissioners, if I'm missing something, let me know, but I don't have anybody signed up to speak. So you've done a wonderful job of explaining it.
Thanks, Rob.
Great. So, commissioners, please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Thanks, Ernest. Thanks for joining us. Item number 9, Internal Services Committee recommendations. There's a few different things on here. I think the first 2 are for Lynn. So if maybe we want to make a motion for A and B, that would seems like it would be fitting.
I'll make a motion to approve items A and B. Kraft.
Thank you, Phil.
Support, Haw.
All right, thank you. Lynn, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The purchasing department solicited sealed bids on the Minton site for the Clemens Center facade project. 574 vendors were notified, 87 vendors viewed the documents, and 6 sealed bids were received and publicly read by the purchasing department. The facade is the exterior front of the building, and the facade at the Clemens Center is a drive-it system. Over time, the drive-it system has deteriorated. The facade program consists of the removal of a portion of the drive-it system, perform masonry repairs, brick masonry repointing, repairs and resurfacing of the upper portion of the drive-it, and application of paint and sealants. A post-bid interview was conducted with North American Construction Enterprises, LLC, and they appear to have a clear understanding of the scope of the project, and in addition, all references were extremely positive. We are therefore requesting authorization to enter into a contract with North American Construction Enterprises, LLC, in the amount of $119,556. This project was identified in the capital plan and scheduled for 2020. And I also want to add that North American Construction Enterprises is a Macomb County vendor.
Great. Let me see. Lynn, I don't have any questions. I understand this wasn't the lowest bid, but I think I read that the lowest bid was non-responsive. Can you just explain that?
Yes, we asked for some additional information for a post-bid interview. They eventually got that to us, and then the architect, along with ourselves, were going to schedule a post-bid interview. And they have yet, as of this date, to contact us. And it was done by phone, trying to get a hold of them, and also email.
Okay. All right, I still don't have any questions, so commissioners, please vote.
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, yes.
I apologize. I did have a request in there. Quick question for you. Are these items all bypassed from every committee?
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I guess I would ask not only this item, but all future items to know why these are bypassed. You know, just looking at this one, it was bid open at the beginning of last month, and I want to have an understanding why we're using this bypass when we had regular scheduled meetings, or am I missing something where we canceled meetings for a reason for them to be bypassed? If somebody could explain that to me.
I think we have a few different answers on some of them, Commissioner Carabelli. Some of them with this COVID money, they were looking to actually have a bypass signed, right, by just the three commissioners. But because we had so many of them and there was so much money accumulating, we decided to create a meeting here. You can ask each one of these speakers the reason behind, you know, the need for speed, or any of our staff might want to jump in on anything that they might feel they can answer.
Okay, I'd like to make that a standing request on each of these items coming forward, so I don't have to keep getting requests to speak. Thank you.
Great. All right. Well, somehow I keep missing. I'm missing anybody asking to. Hold on a second. Let me have to get back onto my meeting here. So I don't see anybody else again to speak on the list. So unless someone wants to speak up now, let's please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Item 9C. I have a motion for 9C. And I'm asking for 9C because
Mr. Chairman.
there are a few of these on here that might need some individual wording on it, and 9D is one of them. So if we could go to 9C only, that would be great.
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chair, for 9C.
So can I get a motion for 9C?
Yes, moved by Jack.
So moved, Kraft.
Thank you. Support for 9C?
Support Drollet.
Okay, thank you. 9C, I believe, Jaco, you're on the line. Would that be
Good
correct?
afternoon, Commissioners. It's Sandy Wilson. I'm here on behalf of Jaco. He is out today.
All right. Hi, Sandy.
Hi. All right. So for 9C, this is for a annual maintenance request for the NeoGov system. This is currently in place. This is annually. Jaco comes with these every quarter. This one has come through recently, so we wanted to submit this. It is for $68,250. It is for the learning management module that we use through the county, as well as our recruiting solution.
All right. Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, Sandy. Quick question for you. I know you said we do this every year. Was there any chance of us using any COVID dollars for this year on this project?
Not for maintenance, there is not.
Okay. Thank you, Sandy.
One of my future items will be adding on to this same system, but for this particular item, no.
Thank you, Sandy.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Drollet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sandy, do you know this is an annual item, as you stated, or a regular item, as you stated? This is a budget item as well that was included in the this year's budget. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Carabelli.
Again, if this is a regular budgeted item, why was this used on a bypass program?
This particular one was just taking advantage of the opportunity that we were presenting. The remaining items are all CARE Act focused and were really requested because we needed to get the approvals to meet our December deadlines as soon as possible.
Yeah, Commissioner Carabelli, a few of these items, just because we had the meeting, we decided to put them on. That's why I was saying some of them have different reasoning. This one, we just allowed it to come on because it is something that happens annually. And some of them, the COVID monies are a little different. So,
Mr. Chairman, I understand. I'm just trying to get an understanding on, you know, all this not going to any committee. and coming straight to the board. Now, you're saying that you decided to throw this on, that there was a reason that you guys did that. I'm just trying to get an understanding. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have anybody else up to speak, so if we could take a vote on this item, that would.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Item 9D, actually, if you've read it, it's to rescind a prior motion and to approve today's motion. So that's why we were doing this one separate. The number changed by, I think, about $10,000 or $12,000. I'm sure that can be explained. So can we get a motion to follow the actual motion in the paperwork? That's to rescind the prior motion and approve 9D.
So moved, Leonetti.
Thank you.
Support by Commissioner Brown.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right. Who is speaking on this one? Is this you again?
Yep, this is Sandy as well. All right, so the initial request was for $46,400. We since then have identified some additional hardware expenses that need to go with this at the amount of $10,063. That hardware specifically is kiosks that will be available for the friend of court clientele as well as attorneys. The kiosks will let them check in remotely without any touching scenarios. There'll also be static displays that will let people know when they're available to walk up to the friend of the court desks, as well as a web component for online viewing. So there was some additional hardware and development needs that came out of since our last initial request on the 27th. So again, that increased it by $10,000, bringing us to a total for the project cost at $56,463.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any questions on that, so commissioners, please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Okay, 9E. I could get a motion for 9E.
So moved, Kraft.
Commissioner Kraft.
Haw.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sandy, is it you?
Yep, this is me.
All right.
9E is for firewall security. This is the amount of $565,331.73. This is a combination of both hardware and software. This is in support of the software-defined network that came through last month on the 27th of August. This basically is the firewalls is that point of entry into our environment when you're working remote. There is a software upgrade that needs to account for the software-defined networking on these switches and the environment that needs to be put in place. There are a handful of switches that need to be upgraded as well. Those are really specific to a lot of the CBTs, but because of the upgraded software, they'll need to be upgraded on those hardware components. I don't know if there's any questions on details, but again, the firewalls kind of are that entry point for virus and intruders into our environment.
I don't have any other commissioners, but Commissioner Leonetti first. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hey, Sandy, I know that Jake Oakson said there was a committee, Vicky Wahlberg and Steve Schmiegel, that takes a look at all the software purchases that we're doing under COVID. Did this acquisition fall under their committee or whatever, a review, if you're aware?
Yeah.
Okay.
It did. All of our requests first go funneled through them before we take it forward to this level.
Okay, and I'm going to assume that all this firewall software probably, this is new. Is this correct, if I'm to understand it?
We have existing firewalls, so yeah, the software will be new to align to the current purchases under the COVID Act, as well as some upgrade hardware.
Okay, and then of course there's going to be annual fees associated with it, right?
That's correct.
And you don't know what they are right now, do we? Do we know?
I know the offset in in what we submitted, you'll see a maintenance amount of $150,330. The offset of that is actually only $67,492 because we'll be able to reduce some of the existing.
I'm
on the
sorry, I
current
didn't hear that
expense.
last part that you said. Well, there's an offset. I did see that in the paperwork, but you kind of explained it, but I couldn't hear you. It was fault on my end.
That's okay. So yeah,
go
the actual increase total is 67,492 because we're getting a reduction on some of our existing maintenance costs.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So I was going to ask the same question, Sandy, and we a month ago, actually on the 10th, we posed a question to both Jaco and to Steve Schmiegel we asked if we could get the breakdown of what the ongoing maintenance fees that were incurring new ones through all this CARES money, because all this CARES money seems great right now, but in a year or 2 years from now, when we're $1 million extra in maintenance fees, it doesn't seem so great then. So we haven't heard anything from them, and we asked again last week. So I don't know if Steve's on the line, if he wants to jump on or not. I can't see everybody that might be on there, but several commissioners, we've reminded them that we've asked for it. I know that this information is out there. And quite honestly, myself and everybody else, I'm sure, wants to know where the break-even point is for spending money now that's free, but then kicking it down the line and having so many, more millions of dollars in maintenance fees coming up. So you don't happen to have any information on that, do you?
I do have some information specific that we've provided to Steve. So I believe Steve is on it. I don't know if it's something he can speak to.
Yeah, commissioners, can you, am I coming through clearly enough?
Yep. Hi, Steve.
Hi there. Good afternoon, everyone. I do recall getting something on Friday about this information. I don't recall the earlier one from August, but in any event, the total additional maintenance for all the items that have been approved, including or will be approved if they are approved at today's meeting, are just over an additional $1 million a year. So that's all been folded into our budget request for 2021 and moving forward. And a lot of the thought behind this is that the CARES Act is providing several $1 million, upwards of $10 or $11 million of funding for these IT projects that in a lot of instances, this one being one of them, the software defining network, as I understand from Jaco and Sandy, is another one that eventually would need to be purchased at some point in time down the road. So, and then all this maintenance would go along with it at the same time, maybe 2 or 3 years down the road, maybe 4, I don't really know. But at some point, the cost would have to be incurred both on the purchase side and the ongoing maintenance. So we're taking advantage of the CARES Act, and maybe we're paying maintenance a little bit early, a year or 2, but we feel it's worth it for the opportunity we have to spend grant money to buy the equipment or software.
All right, Steve. So I have another commissioner in a second, but since I've already started on this, I think everyone understands that we want to take advantage of this CARES Act money to all the extent we can. But do you have some kind of a formula for like what you think is, like what's worth it, so to speak? Because we're adding $1 million to our everyday annual budget starting next year by spending this CARES money, and it just seems like pretty soon, something's going to have to give, and we're going to be doing maintenance fees over employees. So just in the big picture. But do you have how do you look at this in the big picture? Do you have some type of formula of what's worth it to buy now because of the maintenance fees coming up and start to pay early, or is there anything simple you can explain?
Yeah, we don't have a formula or a spreadsheet or anything like that. In this particular instance, we look at, for example, if we need to spend most of this money at some point in the future, and I keep going back to this software-defined networking, because that's a big number. But most of this stuff, particularly if we are going to be working in a remote environment for some period of time, we would need to purchase that money anyway. So say we're buying $10 or $11 million of equipment today with grant money that we would eventually have to purchase within the next 3 or 4 years. We may be paying an extra 2 or 3 million over that period of time for maintenance, but we're saving the 12 million. So it's still a break even at that point, because we'd end up spending the money for the equipment eventually. And it's not that far in the future. If this was, oh, we can get by for 10 years, maybe there's a little different story. But it seems from my conversations with Jaco and Sandy that most of these hardware and infrastructure expenses would be necessary to purchase within the next 3 or 4 years.
So they would be necessary, assuming that we're going to have a more permanent remote working environment going on here. So obviously HR has a little part of this. I mean, obviously the executive's office, but HR is starting to look at the benefits of having more people stay remote, even once this pandemic kind of, subsides a bit.
True. And I believe some of these infrastructure improvements would be necessary, as again, I understand from Jaco and Sandy, would be necessary in the future, even if we were to come back to I'll call it a pre-COVID work environment.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Steve. Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you, Chair. Steve, when we used to get the 5 years out, and remember I used to say, like it all total would be like 37 million, 37, and then you look towards 5 years out and the projected cost would drop down to like 11 million. I'm just throwing numbers out there. And I used to say there's no way 5 years from now that things are going to drop down that low. So my question is, you're talking about these in the next 3 or 4 years, you said, as opposed to like 10 years out. So the majority of these that are on here or have been on here, are they things that were in the 5-year plan?
Some are, some aren't. The software-defined networking was, I believe the virtual desktop may have been. There are some that were and some weren't. Some of the infrastructure ones were. Some of the newer ones that are directly related to the response or necessity created by COVID obviously weren't. But a lot of the bigger ticket items were on the 5-year plan.
All right. The reason I'm asking is if Jaco knows that we have things that are going to have to be done within the next 5 years and they're not plugged into that plan, then we don't have a realistic picture about our future costs. So I absolutely understand taking advantage of this. I just want to make sure we're properly plugging in stuff for the future, because I also feel a sense of anxiety because that number 3, 4, and 5 years out never materializes to be what it is on paper. So that's really just an opinion more than anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I don't have anybody else up to speak, so please vote.
That motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Item 9F, please. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Support.
Support, Leonette.
Thank you. All right. Floor is yours.
All right, this is also one of the CARES Act items that we'd like to get the approval for urgency on this one. It is for the earlier solution we talked about with NeoGov, where I had the additional maintenance cost. What we're doing with the CARES Act is adding 2 new modules to this software system. And one of them is for employees in dealing with evaluations, customized training programs. So as we're more remote, trying to work with them in a less face-to-face opportunity. The second component is centralizing the employee benefits program. So today that is not part of the solution. It is a different method. And so that'll be now covered under the one system. The cost for the two different modules is $47,413.67. I know the form identifies a total maintenance at $98,366. We currently pay $91,000 on that software. So we are adding an additional cost of $7,257.84 to purchase these two modules.
I'm glad you threw that in. I'm sure there was going to be questions on that. Commissioner Drollet. Oh, Commissioner Drollet just withdrew. Commissioner Haw.
Thank you, Chair. Sandy, when you say combining the human resources attributes, does that include retirement as well?
Not at this time. Right now, it is dealing just simply with the current online benefits.
Why would
as we learn more about the tools, we will definitely take advantage of any opportunities it has for all benefits.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. I don't have any other speakers. Please vote.
That motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. 9G. I have a motion 9G.
Moved by Kleinfeld.
Thank you.
Support Haw.
Thank you. 9G. Sandy.
Okay, so 9G is, and 9H will actually is somewhat part of this. So you'll hear some of the same terms again, but this is for the virtual desktop environment. So 9G, we had a 2020 capital request for a hardware improvement, and that is in the amount of the $58,996.63. So we'd like to actually get that funded so we can do the hardware purchase. Again, for virtual desktop, that is being able to remotely connect to applications and some of the larger systems like CourtView or New World, and that is something that is in place, but we did need some additional hardware to account for the growth of that without the CARES Act piece. The second piece will account for the CARES Act growth.
Chair, my motion can be G and H.
Thank you. I was going to ask for that.
Okay.
So
in addition, sorry.
That's all right. Can everybody that supported, please?
I'll support that, Chair.
Thank you. And go ahead, Sandy.
Okay, so the additional $62,804.16 is the CARES Act piece. As we've been working remotely, we've had a lot of bandwidth and features used for specifically the court views, equalization. That has really taken a hit, so we've had to buy some more licensing. And that $62,000 is for the additional users in the licensing. The general fund component of the $58,000, that will satisfy any hardware growth that we have as well.
All right, thank you. I had two speakers, but they both, Commissioner Haw, I still have you on here. Would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Sandy, I don't want this to be controversial, and it may be. I thought I heard on the news today that General Motors is looking at working virtually until June 2021. Are we looking at long-term when we're looking at these types of virtual desktops and database systems to the extent that it could run far into next year? Well, my fear is I don't want this coming back saying we didn't comprehend the longevity of this issue, therefore we need A, B, and C more. So is that being comprehended?
A general answer of yes, it is scalable. So we are definitely accounting for the volume of users we have offline, recognizing, cloud, there's a lot more remote access available within our application environment, as well as hardware. So as the short answer is yes, but as environments change, I'm sure there could be adjustments, but it wouldn't be specific to a workforce decision to move it out till 2021.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Chair?
All right, I think we're on mute.
You're absolutely right.
Thank you.
Commissioner Drollet, you should read my lips, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This sort of follows up on Commissioner Hall's question, but in some of the previous questions, we are anticipating now $1 million in additional overall maintenance fees over the next few years as a result of these purchases. And we're implementing so many new systems. I'm just curious, big picture, what will the residents of Macomb County see a year from now as a result of these purchases? How will their experience in interacting with the county or accounting services differ? Or will it all appear the same to them? I mean, what is the benefit to the community as a result of all of these upgrades? I realize it's a general question. I apologize for it, but it just seems like these are adding up so much that there has to be a very significant, very visible benefit to the citizens after this kind of money is being spent.
A general, I guess, answer to that is, I mean, some of the challenges that we've been facing as far as trying to go remote and deal with constituents and some of their needs in the office. This allows us a platform to better support them. As far as, if I think the clerk's office and people trying to do things online. So our network and our environment become more stable and allow the scalability to enhance on those services, which has not been a priority or a focus for us until recently. So absolutely, I'd say the Macomb County user or constituents will benefit from this, but there's, us doing the infrastructure and the background of that takes some add-on to the front of it from the different departments as well.
So will this really be a visible difference to citizens, or is it going to be more a major shift in how we provide existing services because our employees are going to be able to do it more remotely?
It's really a combination of both. I mean, our primary need, right? Well, it's actually both. On both sides, we're trying to deal with the constituents and get a platform that's stable for them to get services online where they hadn't had that need before, as well as making sure that we as employees can provide them and support services as timely as possible.
Okay, well, I it just seems like there's such a overwhelming scope of new systems that we're bringing on board over the last couple months that when we spend that kind of money, I'd like to see something really shiny and beneficial. And, I want it to be CARES Act money, not Careless Act money. And I think that I hope that these result in real tangible benefits that people can experience. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have anybody else on the line to speak, so please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. And last but not least on item 9I, can I get a motion, please?
So moved, Kraft.
Support Leonetti.
Thank you. All right.
9I is regarding the WIC return to operation. So anticipating a state of Michigan is going to have the WIC employees coming back on site. We're told as early as end of September. They've identified a list of equipment that they will need to do that in order to stay safe. They include things like tablet signatures, different monitors where we can have distance from the individuals. So this is IT equipment focused. The list of equipment comes up to a total of $50,892.17. There will be a reoccurring maintenance cost of $7,583. That is for voice services, as well as some data plans so that they can have the distance for some of the tablets and go to different on-site locations.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. this women's, infants, and children operations equipment we're purchasing, why are we purchasing it? Shouldn't that be a state purchase? How are we responsible for the equipment for that program?
Unfortunately, that's not an answer I can give you. I can take note of that. I think that would fall more under the MCA purview.
Okay. Was anyone here that can speak to that?
I don't know if Steve or anybody else might have an answer.
I'll give it
I've
a
always thought
try.
that to be a state-funded with federal money program and not our program per se.
Finance Director Schmiegel is on the line.
Yeah, typically we administer and run the program, and then we're reimbursed with grant monies, as Commissioner Brown points out. What we're doing here is purchasing the equipment with a different pot of federal money, and any ongoing maintenance costs would be built into the WIC budget, which would then be submitted to the funding source as part of the overall grant application going forward.
So we're just saying, so we're operating as the purchasing manager for the state of Michigan.
I wouldn't necessarily think of it that way. I guess you could. We do operate the program, and we are reimbursed with grant monies, as we do in many other areas.
Right, Commissioner Brown.
Just our staff time, and it is all grant money in the end. It's reimbursed. It's not like it's coming out of our pocket per se, but
no, you're right.
Equipment's being purchased by our standards and not the state of Michigan standards. What if the state of Michigan comes along and says, well, guess what? The stuff we bought is not right, and we need to replace it. Since you guys are the ones that purchased it, we want you to pay the difference, perhaps. I mean,
yeah, and I don't know.
It's kind of in the weeds, but it is a technical point that, why are we buying equipment for the state? So I'll pass. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Let me double check and see if we have any other commissioners here. The mouse is acting up. All right, I don't have any other. Oh, Commissioner Caravelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess it's a general question with all this IT stuff that we've just gone through in last month as well. Are we able to get this all done by year end, all the stuff that we're being requested to purchase? And then to follow up with that, once that's answered, the next question is, if we can't get it done, what happens to the money then on these projects?
Yeah, our planning initiatives are definitely to get this done by December. We know that is a requirement of using the funding. Steve might be able to shed some light on it, but my understanding is if we don't complete these and use the funds, there won't be any available to complete it.
And you feel confident that all this stuff that we've been, for the last 3 months up to today, all this can be completed by the end of the year?
I'm cautiously optimistic. Yes. No, I mean we've put the checkpoints, the review processes in place to ensure that the next 4 months that we are continuing to stay on top of this and deliver. We recognize the urgency and criticality of all of this, and the commitment to deliver is in place. So that is on everything that we've requested as well as have started working on. Those are the objectives we're marching to.
No, and I respect that. I guess, Steve, the follow up to you, if we don't get this done, what's the status?
Well, I guess that depends, Commissioner. If there's no change in federal legislation that would extend the spending period, then the general fund would have to presumably make up the difference. There is also an opportunity or possibility that we could spend beyond December 30th if we had an expectation when we committed the money that the project would be done, and for some unforeseen circumstance that was out of our control could prevented that from happening. So supply chain issues, for example, if we have supply chain issues, we can't take delivery of equipment on as a timely basis or manner as we anticipated, then we would be allowed to spend the money after December 30th because it was supply chain issues possibly caused by COVID. So as Sandy indicated, when IT put these spending plans together, there were pretty tight timelines that will need to be adhered to, but that's why we're going through the process of emergency bypasses and special meetings and those sorts of things to ensure that those timelines are not delayed on our part.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Brown, are you still up? Are you
Yes.
to speak again? Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Round
Thank
two.
you. Is Vicky in? Is Vicky on the line?
I cannot tell who's on the line.
I guess if I was on with Commissioner Carabelli's questions about spending the money, there was an article in the paper yesterday, I believe, talking about comparing the major counties that received COVID or the CARES Act money and what percentage of the money they have spent already. And many communities are up high, spending a lot, pushed a lot of that money out already. And Macomb, I think we're at 20%, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, I think we're being frugal with the money, making sure that we're actually complying with the regulations and make sure the money's spent appropriately and it's going to where it's needed. But I had a question about, how that's going. If we're at 20% now, and Commissioner Carabelli's question about, well, what if we don't make it to the end? If we don't spend all the money, what happens? And we're at 20%, we're a long way from 100. Those are questions that I've got generally about the overall program that we could have a discussion at a later date. But if she's not here, we could table that for a future meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioners?
Thank you. Go ahead.
Commissioners, Vicky just walked in the room that I'm at, so if you...
Would you like...
Good
afternoon.
It's what your leisure, Chair. Whatever you would like to do, Mr. Chairman. It's up to you.
No, it's fine, but I don't know if she needs you to ask the question again. Vicky?
Yes, I think I heard the gist of it and where we're at with spending, and some of you may have seen the Macomb Daily article that came out in regards to that. And yeah, I believe as you saw in your report at the end of August, I think our actual expenditures were right around 25 million for that time frame. And again, probably our biggest approval months for projects through that were in July and August. So many of those projects are really just starting to take off now. Our goal, myself and Steve, is for the full board meeting at the end of this month is that we will provide you even with further detail and where we're at project by project and what's left in each of the specific areas as well. And, generally what will happen if we have actual funding that is not spent, not allocated to a project, we don't get a deadline, we would turn that money back to the Department of Treasury.
Some have said to me, Vicky, that maybe we've received too much money and that we don't need that much money, and that in fact it's because we haven't spent it all and other communities have spent almost all of it already, that maybe it gives the impression that we don't need as much or we didn't need as much as they gave us. I responded that we were just simply being frugal and making sure that we make sure we're complying with all the rules and may not be going out as quickly as other places have, but that was my opinion without any factual background, just my experience with us. But what do you have to say about that?
Right, and I think we are, I don't want to say we're taking our time. We've spent an exhaustive amount of time, and as all of you have seen with the bypasses that were mentioned before, but making sure, that we get it right, not only in spending in the right timeframes, but in the right project areas where the money is most needed. And then also obviously complying with the grant guidance and what some of those areas are, which are changing. We got the money fairly quickly. I think the end of April, there was very little guidance at that time. They had very little reporting requirements. And the feds have changed a lot of that through course of time. So we're trying to pay attention to that new guidance too, and look at projects that we've already approved. How does the guidance affect that? And how does it affect even projects that are still in the queue? Are we still able to move forward with those projects? So when you look at our critical areas of, getting funding out, to those most in need with the vulnerable populations, I think Ernest and the various groups have done a great job on that. We've gotten the money out to the businesses. I just sent the email out today. The final checks went out for rounds 1 and 2. We took care of the first responders, the hospital with the PPE in the beginning where the greatest need is. So I think we've done a really good job with that. And I really think in September and October, you'll start to see more of that actual spending go out the door. And again, when you look at our largest project area, which was the business area at almost $70 million, a lot of that is application process. And again, that's part of our vetting, make sure we get that piece right to award that money out. So with that step, that does take a little longer too. We have the money allocated, we have applications, we try to speed up that process. But we do have to vet those, then turn around and get the checks out once they're approved, which between planning and finance and Michigan Works, we've done a good job at.
Very good. Well, it's no way a criticism of what we're doing. I think we're doing an excellent job and being very responsible, and that's I think this makes us unique among some governmental units. So thank you, Vicki. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Vicki, for joining us. I don't have any other speakers on this item, so please vote.
That motion passes 10-0.
Thank you. Item number 10, Public Services Committee recommendations. We have 10A with the agreement about advancing Macomb, and then all the rest will be roads. So if we can get one for 10A, motion for 10A.
I'll make the motion. This is Jack here for A through D.
Can we just do A? They're separate. B, C, and D will be separate.
Sure, I'll make the motion for A then.
Thank you.
Drollet supports.
Thank you. I'm not exactly sure who's here to speak to 10A.
I can speak to that. This is Vicki Rad.
Oh, hi, Vicki. Thank you.
Good afternoon. So this kind of is a great segue to the conversation we just had with Vicki Wilbur, looking at the Macomb County Small Business CARES Act, the $70 million. The program that we're putting together through the Economic Recovery Task Force to support our nonprofits. Up to this point, our grants really have been allocated towards for-profit businesses. We have quite a few nonprofits in Macomb County that provide community assets and truly are a benefit to the residents that reside in Macomb County. We want to outsource the programming for this grant application. Advancing Macomb is the contractor on record that we would like to hire to help with this. The full allocation for the grants would be $1.4 million, a little over that, with an administration fee going to Advancing Macomb for $60,000. As outlined, they would provide the full administration as far as receiving the grants, creating the grant application, creating a review board, as well as the administration of that. I know we do have Diane Banks on the line as well. So if there's any further questions in regards to the nonprofit community that is seeking support at this time for the program.
Great, thank you. I have Commissioner Kraft up to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, Vicky. Hi, Diane. Quick question for you. What's the timeline looking like from now approval to nonprofits receiving funds?
Right. I can maybe speak to how our grant process has worked out in the past. Typically, we keep the grants open for about a 2 to 3 week period. We've actually gotten a little bit ahead on this one. We had a little bit of time to pull together the application. We need to refine that with Diane. Once that is open, actually Diane's been fielding a lot of calls right now for the nonprofit communities. We kind of have a waiting list for these nonprofits that are waiting to respond. It does take a process to get everything through review board and then finance. I'd say about a 6 to 8 week.
Thank you, Vicky. You guys have a lot of work ahead of you. Diane, best of luck. And yeah, I've been hearing from some nonprofits ever since we've, given to small businesses. So I'm sure everybody else has as well. So this is fantastic and I'm looking forward to it. So thank you both. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Drollet, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Vicky, and everybody involved. Is there anticipation that the funding here will be adequate to provide assistance to any nonprofit that applies and that meets the broad criteria, or is there a chance that this is not enough funds and we're going to have more applicants than we have resources available to provide grants to? Do you know?
Right. So we have allocated 1.5 to this program. There's 3 phases to the 70 million CARES Act. Right now, this is part of phase 2. Phase 3 begins October 1, where we actually reevaluate the various programs to see which ones were successful, which ones maybe.
Well, I'm speaking specifically to the nonprofit component here.
Yes, and that would fall under that. So if 1.5 is not enough and we see the demand is greater than the 1.5 million, we may look at reallocating or moving some of those CARES Act dollars for this particular fund.
Okay, and if if there's more applicants requesting assistance than there is funds available to provide for them all, how will we decide which nonprofits should receive a grant and which ones don't? Is there a criteria? Some nonprofits help people with health issues, some nonprofit with food issues, some help animals. How do we decide which ones are prioritized to receive the funds and which ones are lower priority?
Correct, and that's the part we're bringing on. Advancing Macomb is going to help us with that vetting as well as the evaluation. 2 nonprofits aren't the same. Some nonprofits may have 10 on staff providing support. So I don't know if Diane, if you want to speak to the eligibility of some of the things that we've discussed on our calls.
Sure. Thanks, Vicki. Thank you, board. Yeah, this is something we've been working on with the county corporate counsel to make sure that as we go through the vetting process that we are distributing money based on the restrictions of the CARES Act funding. So we're looking at the organization. We want to make sure that they have paid employees on staff, that they're an employer in Macomb County. We're looking at community benefit and impact from COVID-19. With the diversity of nonprofits in Macomb County, all of these organizations have been affected a little bit differently. So we're going to be looking at what their impact has been and also looking at sustainability too, because that's an important piece of this right now. So just through our relationships with nonprofits and working with the county on the restrictions of the CARES Act funding to make sure that the funding is going to nonprofits with the greatest impact.
Thank you. I guess the concept of greatest impact or greatest value is subjective. Some people might think this nonprofit is more valuable and they want to help and support this nonprofit. Other people think the opposite, that another one's much more valuable. I guess what I'm concerned about is potential inherent bias, not in a negative way, but a predisposition toward certain types of nonprofits while not really considering others or thinking others are less. How do we ensure that every nonprofit is being treated the same, even though they do very different things? And we're not going to steer grants toward ones that subjectively are determined to be of higher value than others? How do we determine which is the highest value providing nonprofit and which ones are lower value?
Right, and I think that there's a way for us to come up with some objective ways to score the applications. You know, when we look at just the size of the nonprofit and the impact, there will be a narrative involved, as well as a review committee. You know, I think what's really most important is how do we come to that conclusion that this nonprofit deserves X, Y, Z, and you know, compared to the nonprofit across the street. Part of all of that, Leon, is understanding the, in creating that matrix or that rubric for scoring, which is part of the, you have to hire Diane first in order to get there, but that's definitely top of mind for us.
Well, I'm happy that, I'm confident that you're going to do your absolute best. I know it's a difficult job because I should be hating to rank some people's nonprofits over other people's nonprofits. And that would be a very difficult job, I think, for any individual to do. So hopefully we've got enough funding available for any nonprofit who meets the broad criteria to receive. And I would hope that you could give us an update at some point through the process to see how many applicants we have versus how much we have available. So thank you, Vicki, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
You got it.
All right, thank you. I don't have any other commissioners on the line, so please vote.
That motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Thank you, Vicki, for joining us. Item 10B through D. Can I get a motion, please?
Yeah, I'll make the motion for that, Chair Smith. Support Gribble.
Thank you. All right. Brian, are you with us? And anybody who is not speaking right now, if you would mute your phone, that would be great.
Yes, good afternoon, Commissioner.
Good afternoon, Brian. The floor is yours.
Yes, 10B would be the contract with Proline Asphalt Paving Corporation for a construction project on Utica and 18 Mile Road, the overlay and widening project. That is a contract that we have that had a bid opening of August 25th. And with the shortened, obviously, construction season that we have left, we're looking to get approval on that to award that contract so we can start work. 100% local money between us and the community.
All right. Well, let me see if there's any individual conversation. Commissioner Myjack. Commissioner Myjack? Well.
Sorry about that, guys. I forgot I was talking. I had to unmute myself. So, Brian, just one question here. I had a couple constituents talk about the 18 Mile Road area and just the fact that, well, they told me, why are they doing this construction when school's going to be starting in September? Now, I know because of COVID, we're not exactly in full school mode. But my question to you is just, what is the construction season? Isn't it like, when does it start and when does it end?
Basically, just kind of depending on weather. A lot of the jobs start when the asphalt plants open in the spring, and that's just the
right
of weather. Could be May. Usually is probably pretty good starting point.
Okay.
So May, / early June and it depends on weather again as far as our construction season. Sometimes we're able to go into latter part of November, even sometimes early part of December, and other years.
Gotcha.
Early, so.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know. So just to give an answer back to my constituents. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian, 10B.
First 10B, it's another contract. The letting date was August 25th. Once again, it's a construction contract that we're looking at trying to get underway. Section of 23 Mile and Shelby Parkway. We did get some state monies for participation in this project along with the community in Shelby. One caveat to this, obviously, we do not have the state contract between the road department and MDOT yet in hand. So this award would be contingent upon the receipt of the notice to proceed from MDOT, which would be, approval of the
Okay. Great. Commissioner Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, my question, Brian, is we've got a county preference provision for contracts that use our local money. Does the state routinely extend our policy to their policy when it comes to low bidder?
We have had contact, especially with MDOT, and they've indicated that they would acknowledge our resolution or our policy as far as the contract that we provided for this contract. The proposal does have a local preference that was, initiated by the commissioners for use in our contracts. Basically, we're waiting for the state contract to be approved between us and MDOT. But the indication to us is that that is acceptable for the use of our local preference provision.
So we'd appreciate getting a copy just so we know we're not violating a state contract or violating state policy by spending money that's against their bid policies by not accepting low bidders. I mean, Dan's is a great company and it's a big county company, but one of the questions raised about, making sure that they comply with our policy because it's not really all our money, right? So you're going to let us know that, and then once that's done, we'll approve the contract contingent upon receiving a state letter concurring with our policy regarding county preference. Is that right?
That's correct, Commissioner. We definitely would not want to risk state funding, and we have relied on the insight of MDOT staff. And we'll definitely ensure that is, received back to us as far as approval for use. This does not go through the MDOT letting process. It was a direct allocation of funding so that we could bid it locally, and we did have that provision in our proposal. And we will ensure that is acceptable as far as the award. Dan's was about $5,300 behind Springline, which was the low bidder. However, with the contract size, if the low bidder, the second bidder, I should say, is within 1% of the low bidder, then our provision says that we would go with the local contractor, which obviously Dan's is, and Springline is the prime would not be. It's independent of their subcontractors who they would hire subcontract to work on their project. So it's based on just the prime contractors that bid on the project. So Dan's is local. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you, Brian. Thanks for the good work you guys are doing. Appreciate it. Have a good day. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. I don't have any other questions on this one. So if we will go to, I think we have 10D.
Yes. This is a standard MDOT contract for work that we are going to be performing on Shaner, north of 16 from Plum Brook Drain to north of Clinton River Road. This is a state contract. We are yet to, the bid opening was September 4th. So getting this approved in advance will fast forward our ability to get the contractor out there and performing the work once the state awards the project through their system. So if we waited till the 24th, we're not sure exactly when we're going to get the contract from the state, but we're anticipating to get it before that. So we had asked for approval of the state contract, which is a traditional contract that we normally have with us and MDOT.
Great, thank you, Brian. I don't have any questions on D, so if commissioners would please vote for B, C, and D.
That motion passes 11-0.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Commissioners. Take care.
Item 11A, Finance and Audit and Budget Committee recommendations. Purchase tax foreclosed parcel for public purpose. I need a motion for this, and then I believe we have Frank Crecia and Joe Biondo on the line.
So move it.
Motion to buy. Motion to approve.
All right, I have a motion and support. Would someone like to come and explain this to the commissioners, please? Frank, are you on the line? Frank Crecia or Joe Biondo? If you, I don't know if you push *6 maybe, or your mute button. Joe, I think we have you.
Thank you, Chairman. Hello, Commissioners. I'm here on behalf of our County Treasurer, Larry Rocca, to recommend to the Board to exercise the county's first right of refusal with regards to a specific parcel that was part of our tax foreclosure process this year. This parcel is a 4-acre piece adjacent to Selfridge Air National Guard Base north of Hall Road. This parcel was foreclosed on for 2017 and prior delinquent taxes. Throughout the foreclosure process, relatively recently, received interest from the base in purchasing the property from the county. Long story short, we were looking for from Selfridge to receive a letter of interest to purchase the property. And today was actually the day we had scheduled for our county tax auction of the foreclosed properties. That's why this is sort of an urgent issue. We need to dispose of the properties through the tax foreclosure process today. And so this is sort of an outstanding issue we need resolved today. We finally were able to get the letter of intent late yesterday afternoon, and we forwarded that to the board this morning. This is going to be basically a 2-step process. The county, the recommendation from the treasurer is that the county board vote to purchase the property for the first right of refusal. And then at a later date, when we have the proper paperwork regarding the purchase of the property from the county to Selfridge, that would be presented to the board to approve. And the whole idea here would be to hold the county harmless in order for us to facilitate this 2-step transaction. And Paige Bashan, Deputy Treasurer of Collections, is on as well. And I think Frank's on as well. Looks like he can talk as well. And we discussed this with the finance director, the execs team. They're supportive of it, and we hope the board is supportive as well. And we're available for any questions.
Thank you. I have Commissioner Duche up first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Why is Selfridge interested in a parcel that's north of M59?
So Selfridge actually owns some of the property north of Hall Road. It's sort of that fenced off area. So on the approach, when they come into land, I believe the idea is for if there's some kind of issue on the approach and God forbid there's some debris or something that kind of ends up in that field north of the runway, they would prefer to own the property so they could more easily address it. But, you know, according to the letter of intent, they intend to use it as a part of the base operations.
All right. Do they have any intention of buying more property north of M59 if it becomes available?
The only interest that's been expressed by Selfridge is in regards to this specific parcel, which was part of the package of parcels that were foreclosed on this year. They expressed, at least to the Treasurer's office, no interest in any other parcels.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Drollet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Joe, for the explanations. So this is a parcel that's already been tax reverted. In other words, you're not in the process of it. Was there any effort by the current property owner to hold on to the property, or was it something that he or she just showed no interest in?
No interest in preserving the property interest. And I will note for the record that this particular parcel apparently has gone through the foreclosure process 2 times before. And as you know, it's a 3-year process each time. I think it's fair to say that with Selfridge eventually receiving ownership of this property, we'll finally find a permanent owner of it.
What happened the previous two times when it went through foreclosure? Did somebody buy it at the foreclosed property rates, or did we just continue to own it, or what happened?
So as you may recall, the process is that we engage in a bulk bid auction. The reason being is we have a responsibility to collect the delinquent taxes and basically at the end of the process not be holding any of the properties. That was before my time. I would have to go back and look into that, which I'd be happy to do and follow up with you. It could very well be that it went through a bulk bid auction process and that it basically came back to us. Which
Okay.
I would highlight that we do have a provision in place where if that were to happen, as far as a bulk bid auction, a winner receiving the property and then it coming back to the county through the tax foreclosure process, we do have sort of a stick to use in that situation where that business entity would be prohibited from ever participating in the bulk bid auction process again.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate it.
Sorry, thank you. I don't have any other speakers on this, so commissioners, if you would please vote.
That motion passes 11-0.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, Joe, for joining us, and Mr. Prisha and everybody else. Item 12, resolution to support funding and servicing of the United States Postal Service. Made a motion for this. Anybody?
Moved by Leonetti.
Thank you. Support?
I'll support it. My Jack supports it.
Thank you. Any commissioners wish to speak on this? All right. Seeing no one wishing to speak, please vote.
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Hoff. Who requested this resolution?
Well, I was one of them that requested it. I know this is kind of on here at the last minute, so I was waiting to see if anyone was going to wish to look into it, any longer. This is the first time everyone's seeing it, but then again, it's probably the first time everyone's seeing most of the other items on here.
That's correct. Thank you.
Thanks.
That motion passes 7-4 with Commissioners Carabelli, Drollet, Kraft, and Brown voting no.
Thank you. Item number 13, proclamations. Proclaiming September 11th through September 17th as Patriot Week and 17th as Constitution Day, Macomb County. Can I get a motion on that?
So moved, Kraft.
Okay, a motion. Support?
My Jack will support it. My Jack support.
That was off.
Thank you. Do I have any speakers? Let me just double check. I don't have any speakers on this. Please vote.
That motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. We have item 14, new business, and then right after that, I'm going to let Commissioner Carabelli take us home with public participation because I have to run. Any commissioners with new business?
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Mr. Duge.
Thank you. I think it's important to let the board know that Marcia Miller, wife of the late Senator Art Miller, passed away last night.
Oh, my
and
goodness.
I'd like to offer our condolences to the family.
Well, thank you for letting us know. All right.
Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
I was just wondering, since our staff has been collecting our mail, is there, and we've not really had a discussion about that, but is there any way we can actually start receiving that, because it's been months. Thank you.
Well, we are allowed to go into the office. People are in the office working. If you'd like, I'm sure that they can package some things up and mail to you. But I know a lot of commissioners have been going in and just getting their mail. You just have to sign in at the front desk in case, there's anybody in there that day that is.
I did go in once, but I thought Adriana was like collecting it. So I guess I was confused on the process. I didn't think it was all just sitting up there.
Okay. I'll double
Chair
check.
Smith, this is Patty.
Okay.
Would you mind if I commented?
No, I would love it.
Oh, okay. Yes. For a more than extended period of time, Commissioner Klein felt Adriana had to pick up the mail from the central receiving warehouse where it was being held, and she brought it back to the office and distributed it there. They are now delivering mail to our office twice a week on Tuesday and Thursday, and then any other days we pick it up. So that may have been where your confusion came in, but it has always been brought back to the office and put into particular mailboxes unless it looked like something urgent. And then in that case, she contacts the commissioners.
Okay, thank you, Patty.
All right, thank you, Patty. Anybody, Commissioner Kleinfeld, thank you. Any other commissioners with new business? I don't see any other commissioners. I'm going to close new business. Commissioner Carabelli, if you wouldn't mind taking us home, I would appreciate it. And thank you, commissioners.
Yes, sir. Public participation. You have 5 minutes. Please state your name, address, and star 6, I believe it is, to unmute, and you can request through the board sync or the meeting here. So anybody from public participation. I know Michael Zubis wanted to speak. Is Michael there?
Yes. And you were correct. It is star 6 from what I recollect.
Okay, Michael, I'm starting my clock. Go.
You need my address again?
Yes, sir, please.
Okay, it is, again, it's 322 North Avenue, Apartment 1, Mount Clemens, Michigan, 48043. All right, I'm going to begin now. This is the continuation from last time, so I'm sure you guys remember that. Anyways, so she was still arguing about this and that, but I blocked it out going, holy crap, I said it. I said the one word I swore to myself I would never say. I can't believe it. I spent years being mad at myself for that. I even watched that one playoff game between the Tigers and the Twins back in 2009 with the man, who was a Twins fan, of course. I shook his hand after the game with respect. So I was glad years later to finally apologize to him through her by saying, I'm better than that, and I know, more importantly, he's better than that. It's never going to make up for saying it, but I know I had to say something. That's because because that's how much not saying the N-word means something to me. When Kwame Kilpatrick buried it, I was happy. Good. It's gone forever. But when Kwame used it again the next year, it hurt because I knew he dug it out of the grave for his re-election efforts, making him a fraud. Instead of us just being brothers and sisters of the same human race, we continue to find ways to divide ourselves with public policies, a belief that we need to be more cops with guns, and oral history has been racist far since before the Three-Fifths Compromise. If America wants to end racism, it must break the cycle of teaching racism. The moment I realized racism was taught was when I was a kid, and my grandpa was explaining to my brother that your dad once thought that the N-words were green. I laughed so hard being a little kid back then, because that was it. That was the moment when I knew racism isn't natural. It's just a part of bad teaching. So here's a quote from Doc Rivers, very decorated NBA coach that he said recently that just struck my mind. It's amazing to me why we keep loving this country and this country does not love us back. He said that with tears in his eyes. But I don't want to end this. I see the change that our nation has desperately needed for years, decades, centuries, even occurring right at this moment, though. So this is not all doom and gloom. This is just the old guard desperately trying to fight off the new guard. And we all know that the old guard must be changed or else reform cannot happen. Police departments across the country are proving they either want to change the way that police their communities, like with Seattle City Council, considering changes in their system, going from the present system of well, the police state, for lack of a better quick term, or to community-based policing, where police become part of the solution as half the time the problems police deal with don't usually need handcuffs. They need assistance and compassion. Some people might say that it's just defunding the police and not putting police officers first, which I disagree. It just puts officers in situations of assistance, not for use as a force unless needed, which we're supposed to have SWAT teams for anyways. Well, it's nice to see the state PD here in Michigan start a transparency and accountability office that has already helped us understand that all of a sudden people with darker skin are getting pulled over disproportionately compared to races in the last 4 years, leading to what, as Geraldine Jordan wrote in her article about this in the Metro Times, that MSP Director Colonel Joe Jasper said on Tuesday that although he believes MSP members do not factor in race when performing their duties, the increase in stops involving Black motorists merits further review to ensure that department policies and practices are not resulting in the disparate treatment of some motorists. They will be hiring an independent third party outside investigator in the matter, which is good. These are all good things to hear. I feel once we pass these laws, the George Floyds and the David Dorns of the world can finally rest easy, just as Breonna Taylor was before she was tragically, well, you know. Good things are coming from all this pain. The change people have been yearning for, that dream that Martin Luther King talked about, it's in us all. We just have to live that dream instead of keeping it in our heads. So let us hope that I can talk about other things next time I come up here, like the Clinton River Watershed cleanup coming up on the 18th through the 20th. Please help clean up the mighty Clinton River. It will be a great time outside for a good cause and one last warm weekend, hopefully. Thank you for your time and be safe out there.
Thank you, Michael. Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Hit *6 on your phone. Anyone else from the public? Going once? Going twice? Anyone else from the public? Hit *6. Closing public participation. A motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Drollet.
Motion by Drollet. Do we have support?
Support by Leonetti.
Support by Leonetti. Please vote and thank you and have a good evening.